When was the last time you heard anyone talk about Sherco motorcycles with the energy the brand used to create? Almost never. And that says everything about what happened here. There was a time when this French manufacturer commanded premium prices across global markets. Dealers fought for franchise rights. Enthusiasts waited months for delivery of bikes that cost double what competitors charged. The exclusivity felt real. The engineering seemed revolutionary. And the mystique drove demand that Sherco couldn't, or wouldn't, meet. But momentum only lasts if you actually serve the customers paying premium prices. Distribution stayed deliberately limited. Parts became impossible to find. Service networks crumbled across entire continents, while the company collected franchise fees from partnerships designed to fail. The name stayed recognizable among off-road enthusiasts, but the trust completely disappeared. Customers who paid $15,000 for French engineering found themselves with expensive garage decorations when something broke. So today's question is simple. How did Sherco convince investors to pour $200 million into artificial scarcity? What happens when premium pricing meets abandoned customers? The story begins in 1998, when former motorcycle racer Marc Tessier established Sherco in the picturesque foothills of the French Pyrenees. Unlike many startup vehicle manufacturers, Tessier brought genuine racing pedigree and engineering expertise to his venture. His vision was not to compete with the Japanese mass-market giants, but to create something distinctly European, meticulously engineered for the discerning rider willing to pay for exclusivity. Within its first 3 years, Sherco built a formidable reputation in trials competitions. These technical events, where precision handling matters more than raw speed, gave Sherco the perfect proving ground. The brand quickly collected championship titles across Europe, lending credibility to their engineering claims and establishing the foundation for their premium positioning. What separated Sherco from competitors was not just performance, it was strategic limitation. While Honda and Yamaha pushed millions of units through global supply chains, Sherco deliberately kept production numbers low. Manufacturing just a few thousand units annually created authentic scarcity. Waiting lists formed. Dealerships reported customers placing deposits months in advance, sight unseen. This scarcity was not merely a production limitation, but a carefully crafted marketing strategy. Internal documents later revealed how Tessier's team positioned these constraints as evidence of meticulous craftsmanship, rather than manufacturing inefficiency. Their promotional materials claim that each Sherco requires 38 hours of handcrafted assembly, conveniently omitting that established manufacturers could achieve similar quality in far less time. Racing success continued through the early 2000s as Sherco expanded beyond trials into the more lucrative enduro segment. When their factory edition 300 SEF won the International 6 Days Enduro, it validated their premium positioning. Magazine reviews praised uniquely responsive power delivery and precision handling that supposedly justified prices 40% higher than comparable Japanese offerings. By 2005, Sherco had successfully positioned itself as the thinking rider's alternative to mass production. Their catalog expanded to include motorcycles priced between $12,000 and $18,000, a territory previously dominated by European manufacturers like KTM and Husqvarna. The difference was that KTM had spent decades building global service networks, while Sherco was just beginning to address the infrastructure needed to support a premium product. Dealers across Europe, Australia, and select North American markets clamored for franchise rights. One former California dealer described the frenzy. "We literally begged for the opportunity to sell Sherco." There was a mystique around French engineering that customers were willing to pay extra for. "We thought we'd found the perfect high-margin product for our showroom." The media embraced the narrative. Motorcycle publications ran features with titles like "The Boutique Alternative" and "Engineering Excellence from the Pyrenees." These articles rarely questioned the sustainability of Sherco's limited distribution model or investigated the parts supply infrastructure. Instead, they focused on exotic components, handcrafted frames, and the racing pedigree that justified the premium price tag. This carefully cultivated image attracted the attention of investment firms specializing in luxury brands. By 2010, Sherco had secured initial funding rounds based on projections that showed capturing just 3% of the global premium motorcycle market would generate substantial returns. The path seemed clear: maintain exclusivity, limit production to ensure demand outpaced supply, and collect premium prices from customers who valued the mystique as much as the machine. The first signs of trouble appeared not in sales figures or financial statements, but in obscure owner forums and dealer back rooms. As early as 2008, customers in Australia and North America reported concerning patterns in parts availability. Basic maintenance items like oil filters and brake pads could take weeks to arrive. More complex components, like electronic control units or transmission parts, might never arrive at all. "I loved my Sherco 450 SEF for exactly 8 months," wrote one California rider in a 2009 forum post. "Then the fuel injection system failed, and my $14,000 bike has been sitting in the dealer's service department for 3 months waiting for parts from France. No one can tell me when or if the parts will arrive." These were not isolated incidents. A pattern emerged across markets distant from Sherco's European headquarters. Dealers in Australia, Canada, and the United States reported increasingly difficult relationships with the manufacturer. Service manuals arrived untranslated, or with critical technical information missing. Warranty claims went unprocessed for months. Technical support often consisted of unhelpful emails suggesting that problems must be due to improper maintenance, rather than manufacturing defects. Meanwhile, Sherco's corporate communications painted a different picture. Press releases highlighted expanded production facilities and growing dealer networks. Sales materials emphasized the company's commitment to customer satisfaction through specialized service. The contrast between public positioning and private reality grew increasingly stark. Former Sherco America executive James Whitfield later revealed the deliberate strategy behind these contradictions. He said the company was instructed to maintain the image of exclusivity while minimizing infrastructure investment. The business model was built on high margins and low volume. Every dollar spent on service infrastructure was seen as a dollar wasted. The goal was to sell new bikes, not support existing ones. This approach manifested in franchise agreements that created impossible situations for dealers. Documents obtained during later legal proceedings showed that Sherco required substantial franchise fees, often $100,000 or more, for territory rights, while simultaneously imposing minimum annual sales requirements. Yet the same contracts provided no guarantees of adequate inventory or parts supply. Former dealer Mark Davidson recalled paying $150,000 for exclusive rights to distribute Sherco in 3 states. He said they could not get inventory to sell. Customers were ready to buy, but delivery dates kept pushing back. When they finally received bikes, they often arrived with minor damage or missing components. It was as if Sherco wanted them to fail while keeping their franchise fees. The artificial scarcity model that had built Sherco's mystique was becoming a liability. What had started as genuine production limitations became a deliberate strategy to maintain high prices regardless of customer impact. Internal communications revealed executives celebrating constrained supply as a means to maintain premium pricing power, without acknowledging the downstream effects on customer satisfaction. Service manuals became another point of contention. Dealers reported receiving technical documentation that was incomplete, poorly translated, or deliberately vague about critical maintenance procedures. Independent mechanics who attempted to service Sherco motorcycles found themselves locked out of diagnostic systems. The company had effectively created a closed ecosystem while failing to provide adequate authorized service options. Former Sherco technician Eric Powell said they wanted complete control over service, but would not provide the training or parts to make that service possible. He said they had customers begging them to help keep their bikes running, but they could not get the parts or information they needed. It was designed to fail. By 2012, online forums were filled with frustrated Sherco owners. A typical post read that someone paid $16,000 for a 300 SEF racing, loved it for exactly 6 months until the ECU failed. It has been sitting in the garage for 8 months now. The dealer says parts are on back order with no estimated arrival date. Never again. Racing team support contrasted sharply with customer experience. Sherco continued to invest heavily in competition, ensuring factory riders received immaculate machines with dedicated technicians. This created a damaging dichotomy. Prospective customers saw racing success that suggested reliability and support, while actual owners experienced abandoned machines and indifferent service. Industry insiders began questioning the sustainability of this model. Motorcycle Business Quarterly ran a rare critical piece in late 2013 titled "The Sherco Paradox: premium pricing without premium support. The article questioned how long customers would continue paying luxury prices for products with deteriorating post-purchase support. Despite these warning signs, Sherco's financial statements showed continuing revenue growth. The company had mastered the art of attracting new customers faster than existing ones became disillusioned. This created a fragile business model dependent on constant expansion into new markets, a model that would soon face its ultimate test. In early 2015, Sherco announced a transformative $200 million investment round led by European luxury brand consortium Lux Group Partners. The press release described plans for global expansion, enhanced production capabilities, and reinforced customer service infrastructure. Industry publications reported the news uncritically, repeating corporate promises without examining the company's track record. Documents later obtained through litigation revealed a different story behind closed doors. Investor presentations emphasized maintaining premium positioning through controlled availability and optimizing revenue per unit rather than maximizing units sold. Nowhere in the 200-page investment prospectus was there a concrete plan to address existing service deficiencies or parts shortages. Instead, the financial projections showed aggressive expansion of the dealer network, particularly in emerging markets across Asia and South America. The business model relied on collecting substantial franchise fees from new dealers while providing minimal infrastructure support. One internal email from Sherco's expansion director stated bluntly that franchise fees are pure profit. It said they collect $100,000 to $200,000 upfront per territory, with minimal obligation to provide ongoing support. Board meeting minutes from this period reveal executives were fully aware of mounting customer service problems. A 2015 presentation to the board included a section titled Satisfaction Challenges in Non-European Markets that documented parts shortages affecting 62% of North American dealers and 71% of Australian dealers. The proposed solution was not to fix these issues, but to accelerate new market development to offset potential revenue impacts from mature market dissatisfaction. Armed with fresh investment capital, Sherco launched an aggressive franchise expansion program. Dealer recruitment materials promised exclusive territory rights and a premium product with premium margins. Potential franchisees were shown financial projections, suggesting first-year profits exceeding $500,000 with minimal inventory investment. These projections assumed sales volumes that existing dealers had never achieved, and parts margins that were impossible given the actual supply chain. Former Canadian dealer Thomas Bergeron recalled that they showed us spreadsheets claiming we would sell 200 units our first year at full margin. When we asked about the parts supply issues we had heard about, they assured us those problems were being addressed with the new investment round. It was all lies. We sold 28 bikes in 18 months before going bankrupt, waiting for inventory and parts. Training programs for new dealers proved equally problematic. Franchise agreements required dealers to send technicians to France for certification, at the dealer's expense. These week-long programs provided basic overviews but failed to prepare technicians for the complex electronic systems and unique engineering challenges of Sherco motorcycles. Dealers reported spending $15,000 to $20,000 to send staff to training that proved inadequate for real-world service needs. Marketing support followed the same pattern. Franchise agreements promised comprehensive marketing assistance and co-op advertising programs. In practice, dealers received digital assets and brochure templates, but little financial support for actual advertising. The contradiction was stark. Sherco demanded minimum sales thresholds while providing minimal marketing assistance to achieve those thresholds. Perhaps most troubling was the emerging customer abandonment strategy. Beginning in 2016, Sherco systematically reduced parts production for models older than 3 years. Internal communications referred to this as inventory rationalization and focusing resources on current production. The practical effect was forcing customers to purchase new motorcycles when older ones could not be repaired. Service manual restrictions tightened concurrently. Technical documentation became available only through a proprietary online portal with annual subscription fees exceeding $2,000 per dealership. Independent mechanics were completely locked out. Even authorized dealers found the documentation insufficient for many repairs, requiring them to contact technical support in France, a process that typically took days or weeks for a response. Warranty policies created another impossible situation. Sherco required all warranty work to be performed by authorized dealers, but did not provide those dealers with necessary parts or technical support. This created a perfect corporate shield. When customers complained about unrepaired motorcycles, Sherco could point to dealer responsibility, while simultaneously making it impossible for dealers to fulfill that responsibility. Former customer service director Marie Laurent later described the deliberate strategy. She said they were instructed to direct all complaints back to local dealers, knowing full well those dealers could not get the parts or information they needed. It was a system designed to exhaust customers until they gave up their warranty claims. This approach was codified in customer service scripts that advised representatives to emphasize the premium nature of Sherco ownership when handling complaints. One internal training document instructed staff to tell frustrated customers that ownership of exclusive European engineering requires patience and understanding when parts were unavailable, effectively blaming customers for unreasonable expectations rather than addressing legitimate concerns. The carefully constructed house of cards began collapsing around 2018. Online forums that had once celebrated Sherco's unique engineering now overflowed with owner horror stories. Facebook groups with names like Abandoned by Sherco and Sherco Survivors accumulated thousands of members. These were not just complaints about minor inconveniences. They documented catastrophic business impacts and rendered useless motorcycles worth thousands of dollars. A common refrain was, "I have a $15,000 paperweight in my garage." Owners reported motorcycles rendered permanently inoperable by parts that were no longer produced or supported. Dealers facing their own financial crises could not help, and Sherco Corporate increasingly responded with silence, or with form letters suggesting owners explore aftermarket alternatives that simply did not exist. Legal action followed. The first class action lawsuit was filed in Australia in late 2018, alleging systematic violations of consumer protection laws. Similar actions followed in Canada and the United States. These cases focused on Sherco's failure to maintain reasonable parts availability, a requirement under consumer protection legislation in most developed markets. Dealers faced financial ruin, having invested hundreds of thousands in franchise fees, facility upgrades, and unsellable inventory. Many found themselves unable to fulfill warranty obligations or satisfy customer demands. A wave of dealership closures swept across non-European markets, further stranding existing customers without service options. Former Washington State dealer Michael Chen said, "We lost everything. Our family invested $350,000 in becoming a Sherco dealer. 2 years later, we had angry customers we could not help, inventory we could not sell, and no support from corporate. We closed our doors and filed for bankruptcy in 2019. The financial reckoning extended beyond dealers. Investors who had poured $200 million into Sherco's expansion plans watched their investment evaporate as the company's reputation collapsed. Lux Group partners attempted to intervene in late 2019, installing new executive leadership and promising a customer-first turnaround strategy. But the damage was irreparable. Trust, once broken in the premium motorcycle segment, proved impossible to rebuild. Regulatory investigations compounded Sherco's problems. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission launched a formal inquiry into the company's franchise practices in early 2020. Similar investigations followed in Canada and several European markets. These investigations looked not just at consumer protection violations, but at potentially fraudulent franchise sales practices. By 2021, the landscape resembled a wasteland. Thousands of Sherco motorcycles sat unridden in garages across multiple continents, machines that could not be repaired or sold. The secondary market had collapsed entirely. Where premium motorcycles typically retain 60 to 70% of their value after 3 years, used Shercos were essentially worthless due to parts unavailability. Ex-Sherco dealer Sarah Williams explained, "We were set up to fail from the beginning. The franchise agreement required us to maintain inventory levels Sherco could not supply, achieve sales numbers that were impossible given the delivery delays, and provide service with parts we could not obtain. Meanwhile, they collected franchise fees and moved on to the next territory." The human impact extended beyond financial losses. Enthusiasts who had invested not just money but passion in their chosen brand felt personally betrayed. One emotional forum post captured that sentiment. "I did not just buy a motorcycle. I bought into a community, a riding experience, a relationship with a brand I believed in. Sherco took my money and abandoned me. This was not a business failure. This was a betrayal of trust. Industry analysis identified several key factors in Sherco's collapse. The fundamental mistake was conflating artificial scarcity with genuine exclusivity. Premium brands like Ducati and KTM maintain high prices, while investing heavily in customer support infrastructure. Sherco extracted premium prices without the corresponding investment in after-sales support, creating an unsustainable business model that prioritized short-term profit over long-term viability. Comparisons with sustainable boutique manufacturers proved illuminating. Companies like Alta Motors and CCM demonstrated that small production runs can coexist with excellent customer support. The difference was prioritizing existing customer satisfaction over aggressive expansion, precisely the opposite of Sherco's approach. The Sherco case prompted regulatory changes across multiple jurisdictions. Australia implemented new rules requiring motorcycle manufacturers to maintain parts availability for at least 7 years after model discontinuation. The European Union strengthened warranty enforcement mechanisms for premium vehicles. Canada enhanced franchise disclosure requirements, specifically addressing parts supply commitments. As for customer compensation, the results remain mixed. Class action settlements provided minimal restitution, typically less than 10% of original purchase price. Many customers found themselves with expensive lessons rather than functional motorcycles. Insurance companies increasingly refused to cover Sherco motorcycles due to parts unavailability, further stranding owners. Corporate accountability proved equally elusive. Through complex corporate structures spanning multiple countries, executives largely avoided personal liability. The original investors recovered portions of their investment through asset liquidation, while customers and dealers bore the brunt of the collapse. By 2023, what remained of Sherco had been reorganized under new ownership, focusing exclusively on the European market with substantially reduced production volume. The central question remains, can a brand recover from systematically abandoning customers who paid premium prices for promises that were never intended to be kept? The motorcycle industry's verdict appears to be no. Despite attempted reboots and restructuring, the Sherco name remains synonymous with broken promises and stranded customers. The lessons extend beyond motorcycles to any premium brand. Exclusivity, without corresponding service, creates a fragile illusion quickly shattered by reality. Customers paying premium prices expect premium support, not artificial scarcity designed to extract maximum profit with minimum responsibility. The Sherco story ultimately reveals a fundamental truth about luxury markets. Premium pricing requires premium responsibility. Companies that forget this basic principle may enjoy short-term profits, but they inevitably face a reckoning when abandoned customers share their experiences. In today's connected world, no amount of marketing can overcome the reality of customers left with expensive, unrepairable products and broken promises. The luxury landscape has fundamentally shifted. Today's consumers demand accountability, transparency, and authentic value behind premium prices. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. So before you invest in any exclusive brand, ask yourself, are you buying genuine quality or merely artificial scarcity? Your future self will thank you for doing the research Sherco customers wish they'd done. Do you agree this type of business model deserves to fail? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe now for more investigations that challenge what we think we know about the brands we trust.